Greedo coming at you with a supplemental coffee talk, the Shard Anti-Duplicator edition. Strange things are afoot, my friends. It appears, it appears that the compensation for the whole box not having a duplicate, bad advertisement, blah blah blah, has expanded potentially to everyone who's bought a box. I don't know. I logged in, I started getting a bunch of anti-duplicators, then I had a bunch of shards dumped in there. You can see I'm up to 50%. I was at 44%. There is some chatter on the forum. I don't see anything official yet, but I think based on talking to a couple players and looking at the forums and what just happened to me, potentially you may find a bunch of shards and a bunch of anti-duplicators in your garage if you bought any kind of large boxes. So I've got a couple pieces of advice for you on how to do that. Looking at it, there's an easier way and a harder way as far as filling out your collections and a couple other little tidbits. But first, let's talk about the situation writ large. You know, in the past, people complained that they were gambling boxes, right? Well, this year, Wargaming changed it. So every 50 boxes, you are guaranteed to get a tank. There were a couple other changes in there as well. The fact that the lower tier tanks nobody owned, so that was going to limit some of your gold potential, at least early on in buying boxes. And 3 of the 5 tier 8s were brand new that nobody owned. And you had to get each one of those before you started getting compensation. So that was a change. Along with that, they made it more about crafting the decorations than just winning them. You still could get decorations in the small boxes, but it wasn't every box. Add to that the whole debacle of the advertisement that, at least on the first day, it said you would not get a duplicate in the box, which meant that, well, it wasn't true. And that meant that people weren't able to get their plus 50% credit. And that's really where the controversy came in. You know, we complain about the gambling aspect, not me personally. Didn't bother me. I'm not going to dredge that up again. However, that was one of the main arguments. Wargaming addressed that and then kind of changed the way the decorations went, got rid of the levels, and now it was a little bit more about crafting. But it looked like, based on the way they did it with the small boxes, you really weren't going to be able to get much out of free-to-play than the small boxes in terms of your credit bonus. And people who bought in the past were used to getting their 50% right off the bat, which didn't happen. So this has gone on for a week or so, 10 days, whatever it's been since this thing has started. And it looks like now Wargaming has finally kind of come around. Initially, they were going to compensate people who bought boxes within 2 hours of the article being changed. And now I think it has expanded based on what I'm seeing here. For me personally, it didn't bother me. It's kind of easy for me to say because as a CC, I'm given 200 boxes. I got up to 44% yesterday. It was kind of interesting and fun to work for it a little bit, as opposed to just be handed it. But I know people a lot of times just wanted to spend $100, get 75 boxes, and enjoy the Christmas season with a plus 50% credit. So it's interesting that we fixed the gambling complaints, but all of a sudden this idea that I should be able to get easily 50%, and when I say easily, I mean by buying it, which not necessarily easily. That's a pretty good chunk of money if you're spending $100 or whatever the equivalent is in other countries. People were used to getting that. And then they didn't get it. And now there were complaints. You know, can anyone ever be happy? I don't know. But like I said, as a CC, it was handed to me, so it's semi-easy for me to say that. But as a gamer, it didn't bother me that much. However, there was an expectation from years in the past that it would work in a certain way, and that was quite significantly changed. I think maybe they didn't quite have their calculations on how shards were going to work, and didn't really obviously realize that people would be kind of irritated that they're not going to get anywhere near their 50% as a free-to-play, and even if they do, it's going to be way late in the game, at which point it'll only be a couple days worth of 50% or whatever it ends up being for them. And the fact that paying customers were used to just getting that 50%, and now they paid a lot of money and they're not getting it. Never mind that nobody really mentioned the fact that, hey, thanks for the guaranteed tank thing, right? We never thank anyone for the good stuff. We're always mad about the things that are broken, right? Yeah, human nature. All right, so that's kind of the status of where we are on this. And to be honest, I think, personally, my opinion, yeah, I'm a CC, call me shill, whatever. I think they have been honestly trying to figure out how to mollify people and make them happy without giving away the store. You know what I mean? There you go. There you go. So if they are compensating people who are buying large boxes, I think that's pretty good. Now, in true wargaming fashion, they've gone completely overboard, because if you buy any amount of boxes, I now have 134,000 shards, and I've used some. I want to talk a little bit about how to use those and what the best way to do it is. 134,000 shards, you may even have more, and I've got 267 of my 284, so I'm pretty close to finishing that. I also have, when you go to the Deco Writer, 96 of these, and I had 100 something to begin with. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute as well along here, because that may be a little confusing to you on what you're seeing. So first things first, what are we going to do with the shards? Well, let me get one little problem, and it's not really a problem, but it's a minor irritant and kind of interesting, and it's only an issue, I think, because of the way they've set it up this year. Let's say you've got all these shards and you're trying to figure out something to do with them, and you're kind of interested in just doing the decoration thing for giggles, right? Well, what's really interesting here is I started looking through my collections and said, hey, I wonder if I can go through these and go, ooh, I like, I don't know, I like the airplane, or I like the stag, right? Let's build it. Even though I've filled it in, let's make another one with all these extra shards, and then I'll put it on my decorate. And I'm like, well, guess what? If you've destroyed it, unless you win it somehow, you can't craft it a second time. Now, I know that's not the way the whole system is built, but it was kind of an interesting thing. I found that out because I built the airplane. You saw it. It was on my sculpture. So I built the airplane, and then I started looking around some of the other collections, like, oh, what are some of the other cool things? Oh, maybe the boat. I'm like, well, how do I get another boat? Nope, you can't. You can't remove it. You can't craft it. No boat. You can win it. If it randomly shows up, you might get another boat. But so, that being said, if you are interested in putting whatever you want on in your decorations, while you're doing all this shard and Deco Writer anti-duplicator stuff, make sure when you build that thing, you put it where you want it to be, as opposed to breaking it and turning it into shards. So if you have a lot of openings, you might find cool stuff. That's a small thing, but there you go. What are some of the other things we can do with the shards? Well, here's a great suggestion. Save enough to knock every one of the Arnie missions down. So simplify it. I simplified this from 20 to 12. It looks like it's about 1,000 shards or somewhere in there for each one. So if you figure I'm on day 13 and we got 32, do the math, and you need at least that many thousand. So 30,000 or something like that probably saved would be enough to knock down a lot of these Arnie missions. Just make them easier. So that's one thing you can do with all the shards right there. The other thing is obviously to finish your collections. All right, let's talk Deco Writer stuff real quickly. If you're showing 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 anti-duplicators and you think that they gave you a bunch, you probably have 107, 112, that kind of thing. There's not 3 digits here. So that's the big deal right there. I actually tested that, and it is true. I watched it go from 102 to 101 to 99. I guess it went to 0 first. Actually, I don't know if it did go to 0. Let me get the video. Hold on. Yeah, here it is above. I was on 1, made the thing, brought it down to 100. You can see it right there. Circling it with the old mouse. I'm going to click on it again. Now this is the hard way, and we'll talk about an easier way. Go into the collection, clicking the one you want, flipping it to anti-duplicator. There it is. You still have them. You click the button, and it goes down to 99 right there. In a second, anyway. It takes a while. All right, cool. So that's the hard way. The hard way is to go to your collection, find an opening, click that one. It sets it up to what you want. Go to one anti-duplicator charge and press craft, and it costs you 1,500. There's an easier way, my friends. There is an easier way. You don't even have to go to the collections. It takes a while to go through all that. What you do is click the collection you're looking at. Now this way you will get a sort of random non-duplicate. Say you have 3 openings in Christmas tree on the Lunar New Year thing. I don't know how many openings are there on my particular collection, but there is an opening. And I know this once I set the collection and the decoration type, because I have, if I switch to duplicator, oops, I don't have one actually. All right, so I switch to duplicator. There's nothing to craft, so I go here, here, here. I should have one. There we go. So I don't have whatever that is. I do have one of those. See how it lights up? So now I can click that. I have one charge. I click that, boom. And you can see the collection go up. And my advice is to use all your anti-duplicators to finish your collection until you run out, and then use shards, because there's a few other things you can use shards for. Not many, but there you have it. At least the Arnie stuff, you can use it. So again, click in here. Oh, remember, this looks like you have something. You will be able to craft it, and that is actually interesting, because now I'm wondering if you can randomly craft stuff. I guess you can. You just can't go through the collection. Very odd. Anyway, you need to click back to charge and click on these again and figure out which one you need. So it looks like my Christmas tree is completely done for the Lunar New Year. No fair. I have this one. Make sure you have clicked the anti-duplicator, and then I can click that again. I'm going to make another one. You see it goes up to 270. You got to wait. Watch out for this. It turns your duplicator off. So don't just go, ooh, I got another one, and click the red button immediately. You got to click back to the anti-duplicator. Looks like I finished that. Come down here. Nope, nothing. Okay, I've got one of those. The ride. Click on that. See, it goes from 270 to 271. Makes a bunch of sounds. Going to turn itself off again. Turn it back on. Okay, I'm done, right? It's shaded out. So just double check. It looks like I have none of the Christmas tree. I'm done with the fair. Go to the installation. There we go. I've got one of these. We're just going to crank through this until this particular book is finished on the Lunar New Year. Just takes a while to click through. We'll go back to anti-duplicator. Just kind of click around, double check. Okay, I'm done there. And I do have some of these, so we'll click one of those. We're at 272. Boom. So we just finished that we just finished that collection, and I got the dog, cat, whatever it is. Looks like cats, I guess. Affirmative, and we're done. So we go over to the collections. We check Lunar New Year, which is right there. And we slide the slide bar. We've completed the entirety of the Lunar New Year. Got the little thing right there. The other thing you can use all those shards for, and this is really beautiful for those who didn't finish previous years. Remember, you can go down to the previous years, just use chunks of shards and finish up the camos for the years previous. So that's another thing you can do with all of those shards. So that was the fastest way I could find without clicking back and forth. You can just stay right on this particular section right here on the Deco Writer and just knock it all out. For example, again, if I go over here, click the anti-duplicator, then I can start finding the next thing I need to do. Looks like the Christmas tree is done. Clicking through the fair. All right, I have something in the fair. Click that. Easy peasy, just like that. Again, be careful. Make sure you click your duplicator back on, because it will lead you down the primrose path. Looks like I can make any of these things that I want. I just can't make a specific one. So that would be one way to work around not being able to go through your collection and say, I want to build this. It's just that you're going to get a random one within that grouping. So you may get the one you want. You may not. Also, if you're interested in doing all the decoration stuff and you're making all these things, go ahead and check your, probably the easiest way is shards, and take a look at all these different things and find out which ones you have. Or you can clearly go back to the decoration area, click on it, like the tree, and then start seeing what new things you might have. So I've got a couple different things on here, a bunch of different garlands, so you can play with that if you're interested in doing all the decoration thing like that. So all right, there you go. You know, strange things are afoot. This I have the Caliban here because I'm feeling like this holiday ops this year is a lot like the Caliban. Its dispersion is really wide, and it's not really hitting everything you want it to, but when it does, it's pretty awesome. Doesn't that kind of what this seems like this year? It's frustrating with a large dispersion, but it's really fun when it hits. I don't know, man. That's what it feels like. But I think there's a bunch more compensation going on. If there isn't, and I'm wrong, then at least I've shown you what to do. If you did get some earlier, it took a long time of clicking for me to kind of realize how that works. So maybe some of you will that will help you out. Arnie missions, you have a lot of extra flexibility in decorating. I would use every anti-duplicator charge you had before I ever touched any more shards. And then you can always do the 3,500 shards thing if you run out of anti-duplicators. If you have a bunch of extra shards, remember you can go to the 3,500 shard thing on the anti-duplicator and do the same thing. It's just going to cost you more shards instead of a anti-duplicator charge. All right, you guys have a great rest of your, what is today, Wednesday, I believe it is. Christmas is coming up. We'll see you guys in the next couple days. That's all I've got. See ya.